What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over DC Rebirth Aquaman, and we do pick up with the next story arc. That would be H.2.O. Now, when it comes to H.2.O, it's all about the idea that there is a body of water in the Gulf of Mexico, better known as Deadwater. Now, the reason why it has that name because when it comes to Atlanteans and also sea creatures, they are unable to live or survive in that area. And so because of that, it got the name Deadwater. Now, it also has the ability to affect humans by turning regular humans into, well, sea creatures. And that right there brings up more questions on why in the world this body of water is able to do all of that to humans, but also Atlanteans cannot survive in that body of water. There are so many different mysteries going on. Now, technically, this is not the first time Aquaman has heard about Deadwater. There was a one-shot at the very beginning of DC Rebirth, but we have skipped over it. And the reason why, because literally you can read this story right here and completely understand the whole idea of this storyline of Deadwater. Now, something else I do want to mention is that the only reason why Aquaman is being pulled back into this problem is because at the very end of our last video, he was contacted by the Aquamarines. Now remember, when it comes to the Aquamarines, they were a group of Marines that the US Army had put together and gave them aqua-like powers as a way to assassinate Aquaman. Because in earlier videos, America was going to war against Atlantis, and so America wanted to kill off their king, Aquaman. Now, at the end of the story arc, both countries were able to work everything out and begin to work together. But the Aquamarines came over to Aquaman and say, hey man, listen, the Deadwater situation is only getting worse. And so we do pick up with our heroes arriving at a Navy base that was actually stationed near the body of water, better known as Deadwater, to hopefully learn more about it. Now here comes the problem. There were at least 30 people stationed at this Navy base. They're all gone. They all disappeared. And the question is right now, why and how? Now, when our heroes do arrive, they are confronted by two FBI agents, Irving and also Ajar. Now, when it comes to our two FBI agents, well, the reason why they are here because they have been studying, they have been working on this case when it comes to Deadwater. And so it only makes sense to bring them here to get a better idea of what in the world is currently going on. Now, the next character would be Scavenger. And when it comes to Scavenger, he appeared at the tail end of the New 52. And he was a guy who would go around and steal different Atlantean artifacts to use those artifacts as a way to make some money. Now, he was stopped by Aquaman, but he was used as a way to introduce the whole Deadwater concept. Really him and another character, and that would be Jonah Payne. Now, when it comes to Payne, he was turned into a Deadwater creature because of the Deadwater. Like I said earlier, for some reason, Deadwater is able to turn regular humans into creatures. The question is how and why. And so when it came to Jonah, Aquaman had to stop him. But again, it told Aquaman, we have to learn what this body of water is all about. And so you do have our heroes go inside the actual Navy base. And when they do, they don't find anybody. And like I said, there were at least 30 people inside this base and they all have disappeared. And the question is right now, how and why? And so while you have our heroes looking around, they do find some creatures that have been kept in containers. Now here's the problem though, because remember, we were told that sea creatures and also Atlanteans were not able to survive or breathe in the Deadwater. But these are creatures that came out of Deadwater. But the problem is though, these are creatures that should be no longer around. They are ancient creatures, millions of years old. how in the world are they still here? Either way, you do have our heroes continue to look around the actual Navy base to see if anybody is here, any survivors. And at first, where it does look like they're not going to find anybody at all, except that is the moment you have a dead water creature appear. Now, the last time anybody saw a dead water creature, it was Jonah Payne that was turned into a creature because of dead water. But how in the world this creature get here? And so it's kind of like, okay, that means somebody else must have turned into a dead water creature, one of the 30 people that were stationed here at this base. Either way, you do have our heroes try their best to fight against this creature. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to the Aquamarines, they do lose one of their own because this creature appears so fast that he was unable to change into his Aquamarine creature form to fight back against the creature, and so he was just gutted right then and there. And the creature continued on, trying to go after other people who are currently inside the Navy base. And so now it's up to Aquaman to deal with this creature. And so we do pick up with the second chapter. Now, when we do learn a tad bit more about these sea creatures, where we kind of find out these creatures are able to travel through the moisture in the air because they travel through water. And so while you have Aquaman fighting against this dead water creature, he tells Mera, use your powers as a way to drain all the water in the room, in the entire Navy base, because if you do that, it's going to leave because it still needs water to survive. If there's no moisture in the air, no water nearby, it will not survive. It needs water to survive. And so as soon as Mera does that, bam, the creature leaves because it wants water to survive. And so now our heroes have learned a tad bit more about these creatures. Now, right after that, you have Aquaman say, okay, we need to lock down the entire base. And the reason why? Because if we are able to keep all kinds of water outside of the base, that means the dead water creatures won't be able to get inside. If we do that, we can then continue our work to figure out what in the world happened to the 30 people who were currently working at this station. They all just disappeared. Now, when it comes to Scavenger, he wants to dip out because the last I saw a dead water creature was when Jonah Payne had turned into a dead water creature and attacked him, and he barely survived. And so this man right now is having PTSD. He's freaking out about the idea of seeing another dead water creature. But Aquaman say no. Everyone has to stay here so that we are able to figure everything out. Now, when it comes to our heroes, as they are walking around the actual base, they do find a device that was left behind by the staff of people who worked at this base. Now, when it came to this device, we learned that it had the ability to create a force field. Now, keyword had, or really, it has not done it yet because they were unable to actually finish it. Now, here's the thing. What did the staff learn when it came to dead water? Because this device was able to create a force field to keep dead water out of the base. What did the staff learn when it came to the idea of dead water and how it could affect humans and turn them into creatures? And so we do pick up with Mera. Now, when we do, is Mera currently with the Aquamarines. And this is where she kind of expressed her feelings when it comes to the Aquamarines, but also America as well. Now, the only reason why she's doing this is because out of nowhere, they pull out a bunch of weapons to use as a way to kill off the body of water, better known as dead water, to handle this entire situation. Matter of fact, they brought over a mini nuke, hoping that this nuke could possibly end everything that's going on here. Now, with all that being said, when it comes to Mera, she says, look at you guys. Look at you. You represent America. And just like America, you think the best thing to do is to blow things up. you guys are so ready to go ahead and fight with your weapons, your fists, rather than work things out with your words. Now, this is really huge coming from Mara, somebody who's well known for being a hothead in DC Comics. Now, the only reason why she is saying this now, because yes, it's because it did bring a lot of weapons to hopefully handle the Deadwater situation, but we cannot forget in the earlier story arcs, America was going to war against Atlantis. And so because of that, she has a lot of hatred towards America. Except that is the moment where you do have our heroes being attacked once again by another Deadwater creature. Now, when it comes to this Deadwater creature, it's only attacking Mara and also the Aquamarines, because Aquaman, the two FBI agents and Scavenger, well, they're on the other side of the base, trying their best to actually finish the device that was left behind by the staff that worked here at the base. But once they're able to finish it and turn it on, it does release some kind of shield around the base. And once the shield goes up, the Deadwater creature turns back into a regular human. Now that gives us even more questions right there. Unfortunately though, before our heroes are able to question the guy, the Aquamarines gun him down. Now we could say that because they had just fought his Deadwater creature form, they were still kind of scared about the idea that he may turn back into that Deadwater creature. But again though, he was just a naked man in front of them who was kind of like, what in the world is going on? But now he is dead. And now that kind of hurts their chances to learn more about Deadwater. And so with that guy being dead, you have Aquaman say, our best option now is to go into Deadwater to learn more about it. Now remember, Atlanteans, North Sea creatures, can actually survive in Deadwater. When it comes to Atlanteans, they can't breathe in there unless they do have some breathing equipment, which luckily they do have. And so that'll give Aquaman and Mara the ability to go down to Deadwater to learn more about it, because the only thing they do know about the body of water is coming from a sinkhole. And so with that sinkhole being so deep, the only two people who may be able to survive that kind of depth in the ocean would be Aquaman and Mara. And so they leave. Now, right after they do leave, we have to answer some questions about the guy who was a Deadwater creature. And what I mean by that is because at first you have all our heroes believe that he was some guy who must have dived into Deadwater, and that is why he was turned into a creature. Except they find his files. He was not a diver. Matter of fact, he was one of the scientists working at this base, which means he never got into Deadwater. So how in the world was he turned into a Deadwater creature? But either way, you do have our two heroes, Aquaman and Mara, being able to arrive at the sinkhole. Except when they do arrive there, Aquaman says, this feels weird. This feels different. And so that leads us into the third chapter. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to Mara and Aquaman, when they do arrive or get deeper into Deadwater to the sinkhole, they kind of find some kind of gate. Now, the reason why I'm saying the gate, because to Aquaman, Deadwater is alive. And to Mara, her powers are telling her the same thing, that this whole body of water is alive, but on top of that, that gate leads somewhere else, which means that Deadwater is some kind of aqua creature that comes from possibly another world. Now, when it comes to Aquaman, the Deadwater, the body of water, is talking to him, trying to communicate with him. And it tells him this big, huge hole right here you're seeing is, yes, it's not your usual sinkhole, but it's a gate. It leads somewhere else. And so you do have our heroes go through the actual gate to see where it could possibly take them. And so we jump back over to Atlantis real quickly. And the reason why, because this is where the next story arc is going to begin. And what I mean by that is you technically have the people of Atlantis very upset with their king. Now, for two good reasons. The first is that he's never around. He's always busy doing other things in other parts of the world. And they feel like if you are going to be king of this land, you always should be here, no matter what. Now, the second reason why is because the war between America and Atlantis. Now, here's the thing. The people of Atlantis feel like the war could have been avoided if Aquaman had never tried to build a relationship between Atlantis and America and other surface world countries. If he had just stayed in Atlantis, mind his own business, and focused on Atlantis, that war could have possibly never happened. But it did. And innocent lives were lost on both sides. And when it comes to Atlantis, unfortunately, they had to pick up most of the pieces. And so right now, the people of Atlantis is very upset with their king. Innocent folks died. The city was heavily damaged. And look, he's not here once again. This is going to begin the next story arc. But we have to jump back over to the Navy base. And the reason why, because we do pick up with our heroes who stay behind as Mera and Aquaman went down into Deadwater. Now, when it comes to this group right here, tempers are rising because you have different people wanting to do different things when it comes to Deadwater. For example, Scavenger knows that the Aquamarines have brought a nuclear missile with them, a mini nuke that has the ability to close the sinkhole at the bottom of Deadwater to end all things when it comes to Deadwater. Except when it comes to the Aquamarines, they don't want to use that. That is a last resort. They want to see if Aquaman and Mera are able to learn more about Deadwater. Now, when it comes to our crew here, they have no idea that technically it's not a sinkhole, it's a portal, because they lost all communications with Aquaman and Mera. And so they have to wait until they are able to reconnect with our heroes to learn more about Deadwater. But again, you have different people wanting to do different things when it comes to Deadwater. And some people are beginning to get scared. And that fear is going to be very important. Now, getting over to Aquaman and Mera, once they are able to get to the other side of the portal, they do learn that they are on another planet. And this planet is called Tethys. And I really hope I pronounced that correctly. Now, when it comes to this planet, it's a complete body of water. There's no land anywhere across this entire planet. But on top of that, it's alive. And so what it was trying to do was use portals as a way to make contact with other planets across the universe, or to find other living beings across the universe. Now, once it does have a portal that leads into another world, what it does next is it releases a pulse. Now, this pulse is technically used as a test to see if anybody is worthy to come to this planet or to build some kind of relationship with it. Now, here's the thing, because like I said, that pulse was a test. And the thing is, if you fail the test, you are turned into a dead water creature. Now remember, like I said earlier, fear does play a very important role in the storyline. Because what that pulse does is it tests you. It sees that if you are scared to kind of be able to make connection with an alien being. If you are too scared, you'll turn into a dead water creature. If you're not scared, then hey, you know what? You passed the test. And so that explains what happened to all those scientists or other people that had contact with Deadwater. Now, when it comes to Aquaman and Mera, they realize they have to get back because that pulse can get bigger and bigger, and more people might get scared and turn into dead water creatures. But we have to jump back over to the Navy base. And the reason why, because like I said earlier, fear is about to play a huge role in this storyline. Because you do have some people who are beginning to get scared of Deadwater. And so with all that being said, you have everybody realize Scavenger disappeared and he took the mini nuke with him. And so that means most likely he is going to arm that mini nuke. And that's a huge problem because one, it's still a nuke. It can cause a lot of damage. But two, if you are not clear from the actual radius, you are going to die with that explosion. And so you have everybody freaking out because they realize what he is trying to do, which is get rid of Deadwater. Now, if that nuke does go into the water, that could kind of bring the radius down. But the problem is our two heroes, Aquaman and Mera, have not gotten back to Earth yet by going through the portal. Now you have everybody go their separate ways, and that leads into another problem. And that would be Agent Ajar. And the reason why, because she finds Scavenger, and when she does, she realizes the nuke has been armed and she begins to get scared. But that pulse is still going through the portal over to Earth, to the Navy base. And because again, that pulse plays on your fear, it turns you into a Deadwater creature. She turns into a Deadwater creature. And so now they have another problem. But when we jump into the 4th chapter, well, that is the moment where we do pick up with another problem. And the reason why earlier I said that fear is playing a huge role when it comes to the storyline is because now Scavenger is scared. And with him being scared, that means that he will also turn into a Deadwater creature. And so now you have two creatures running around the entire base. Now, Aquaman and Mera do arrive back in time, and you have Aquaman being able to hold off the creatures long enough until Mera is able to use her powers to dry out the room. Because remember, they need that water to survive. And now with the room being dried out, they have to leave and come back until they're able to see there's water in the room. But the problem is though, now they have to find a way to close the portal so that their two friends can turn back to normal. Now, when it comes to our heroes, they have two options. The first option is kind of like the safer option, where you have Aquaman trying his best to actually talk to the alien planet by saying, hey, listen, what you're doing right now is causing us a lot of problems. Can you go ahead and just close the portal and leave Earth alone? But the thing is though, if that plan does not work, their second plan is to use the nuke. Now, when it comes to Aquaman, he does not want to do that because he knows if he does use the nuke, he's going to harm this alien planet that does not truly understand what it's doing right now when it comes to the planet Earth and humans. And so you do have our hero try his best to communicate with the planet. But unfortunately, the portal is not closing and they have no choice but to go ahead and use the nuke. And when they do use the nuke, yes, the portal does close. Yes, our two friends that had turned Deadwater creatures do turn back to normal and the day is saved. But the problem is though, it seems like Aquaman did not try hard enough to communicate with the alien planet. It's kind of like he tried, he waited for a few seconds, gave up and said, here's the nuke. And so to Mera, that's a problem because he just hurt a sea creature. And matter of fact, it leads into an argument right after that between Aquaman and Mera. Now, the reason why the two characters are arguing with one another is because to Mera, he didn't try hard enough to try to figure out how to save Deadwater, how to work with Deadwater. And so that was her problem. And she feels like because he came from the surface world, because he has been hanging out with the surface world, that he was so fast to go ahead and decide to use a nuke rather than try to work with the sea creature. And that's her problem right there. it was technically a sea creature. You should be trying your best as king of Atlantis, king of the oceans, and try to work with all sea creatures around the world, or possibly alien sea creatures from other planets. But again, you didn't do that. You rushed in, used the nuke, and said, the day is saved, bye. And so that right there really does bother her a lot. But then we pick up with Corn Raft. Now, when it comes to Corn Raft, we actually met him in the earlier parts of our coverage over DC Rebirth Aquaman. And when it comes to this character, he's really big on the idea that Atlantis should not be working with the surface world at all. And so when it came to Aquaman trying to achieve that goal, he tried his best to make sure that plan never worked. Now, he did fail and he did get locked up. But it seems like somebody is about to break him out. And it seems like somebody is going to try to use him as a way to change the future of Atlantis. And this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.